Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am finally getting back into abstract, so I'm going to walk through with you the first steps of my mark making for my new abstract painting. So right now I'm putting down the first layer onto this textured canvas. I have already put down a layer of heavy gesso, which is from Liquitex, and I put that all over the canvas to start off, and it gives it a really nice texture. I use brushes or this rubber palette to put it all over the canvas. So once that is dry, I then come in the next day and I can start the painting. So today I am starting it with a bright polycadmium red from Golden, and I always use heavy body paint. I mixed it probably half and half with gloss medium, and this helps it to show up more transparent on the canvas. And so when I'm using this rubber spatula, it creates different textures within the already textured canvas, which can help me kind of build a composition fairly early. As you can see, some of the red is darker in some areas, and that's basically the paint just sticking to different parts of the canvas because it's a little bit uneven, the surface. So I forget exactly what this rubber spatula is called, but you can get it at any art store. I think it was like $25 Canadian, and it's very easily washable. So if you get any dry acrylic on it, you can just kind of even peel it off or just put it in the sink and the paint should come right off. I don't use it fairly often, mostly to start off a painting because you can cover large surface area very quickly. And now I just switch to a small brush and I'm kind of filling in the white areas, just kind of playing around with some texture and switching the object I'm using to paint with. I'm painting a 36 by 36 inch canvas. This is probably my favorite size canvas to work with. I do really like working with squares, so either 36 by 36 or 24 by 24. Yeah, I just find it easier to work on a square for composition. I should definitely practice more on like 24 by 36 and sizes where the length and width don't match. But let me know in the comments what size canvas is your favorite. So I mix all the paints behind me on this table, and I have a plastic palette from Triart, which is a Canadian paint company, and I like it because you can easily peel off the acrylic when using it. It's a little big to kind of carry and use closer to the canvas, but I've always been painting where I just have a desk and I make all my paints on the desk, and then I just kind of go back and forth from the easel to the desk to mix my paints. Scaring myself in 3, 2. So I used to do this a while back where I would do 2 paintings at once. So I tried to prepare 2 canvases last week. So I do have this 24 by 24 that I've already kind of started. And this is just the first layer. This is just excess paint from my last painting I was working on. And I'm just gonna go over it with whatever's already on my palette. And I find it is beneficial to paint at least 2 paintings at once because you're kind of waiting for the first painting to dry, and then you can kind of move on to the second painting when that one's dry, and you get fresh eyes consistently on each painting. And at this stage, I'm not really caring about what colors I'm making. I'm kind of just, I put like 4 or 5 different colors on my palette, and then I'm kind of mixing in between them to create these different shades. And as I paint, I'm trying to go over the circles and shapes I already have on my canvas, so I'm not kind of staying within the lines I've already created. I'm consistently trying to cross the lines I've already made. And I do this with a little bit of gel medium. So I'll put a little bit of gel gloss medium in my paints so they're a little bit translucent. You can also use glazing medium, and this creates that kind of ghostly effect between layers. But again, at this stage, it's mostly about just getting paints down. And then as the painting progresses in the next few layers, that's when I'll kind of slow down and be a little bit more precise of where I'm putting down the paint once I'm happy with the composition. I'm really happy that I started both these paintings with that bright red because I see it peeking through in different parts of both the paintings, and it just adds so much vibrancy and life just within the first layer or two. I remember just being super excited about this color combination. These violets and blues and greens and seafoam and neon green, they just look so cool against the red, and I know I'll bring these into the larger piece as well. And use both your hands when you're painting. So I'm left-handed, but I'm using my right hand now. It is probably because my left hand was cramping, but it does create different lines and textures using your opposite hand. So it's a great way to loosen up, especially when you're first starting to paint for the day. Periodically, I'll just grab a China marker and I'll just go through with some black lines. I do this with a white China marker, sometimes red, even pencil crayons work, or just plain pencils or charcoal. This is so that when I'm building up my layers, there'll be some of those lines left over in the final piece, and it just builds character as you're working on your layers. So my friend, also named Chris, built this easel into the wall for me and put it in one of the pieces of wood behind the drywall. So it's studded in there well, and it's just so nice to not paint directly from a nail hung up in drywall, because now this painting does not move at all, and I'm so blessed to actually have an easel that works for me. And now I'm taking a bit of that neon green I made, and I'm just making some elongated circles or lines across the canvas. Again, not really thinking about composition at this point, just intuitively putting some marks down. I think one of the biggest lessons I learned when it comes to abstract painting is the power of subtracting. So you have to put stuff on the canvas to then subtract it. So the more I put on now, the more fun I can have subtracting it and taking things away to even out the composition. It feels so nice to get back into abstract painting. I finished my Expressionism Nostalgia collection, and I move into Expressionism when I'm tired from abstract, when I feel a little bit drained, and then I move back into it once I'm tired with Expressionism. So I kind of go back and forth depending on my mood. This will probably be my first abstract paintings I've done in like 6 months, and it is such a breath of fresh air for me. I'm excited to do it again. I feel playful and interested in experimenting with shapes and colors and textures. So I'm really excited to see how these abstract pieces will kind of connect to my Expressionism pieces I just did. I'm kind of scared when I apply to shows and art fairs. Like I just applied to the Toronto Outdoor Art Fair with my Expressionism pieces. But then by the time July rolls around, I'm doing a totally different sub-genre of my style. So I'll be doing abstract now probably until July. So I'm trying to meld my two sub-styles into one. So I might be adding words into my abstract pieces, kind of on the bottom, like a caption, to kind of play in with my Expressionism pieces that also have these kind of like playful captions within the painting. Subscribe to my channel if you're liking this video so far, and give this a like. And then you can also check me out on Instagram at Chris Nelson Studio and look at my current pieces, and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about with my Expressionism pieces. So I think I did a close-up here to show you kind of the translucency of the painting layers I'm doing. You can see that when I add the gel gloss medium to my paint, it's probably a 60-40 ratio, if not more gel gloss medium. And it creates these kind of like ghostly translucent textures that are just so juicy and interesting when you're doing abstract. And I can tell just by the way I'm painting in this moment of the video that I know I'm getting excited with what I'm doing right now. And I'm starting to like the colors and the textures. And it's kind of a double-edged sword at this point, because you're starting to like the composition and the colors you're using and what's happening on the canvas, that when you move on to your later layers, you kind of feel guilty for covering it, but you always have to cover it. And I say that you have to cover it because at this stage of the painting, you can't get obsessed with any part of the painting right now, because most of it is going to be covered up. And if you hold on to it, it's just going to mess up the flow of the later layers. Like I said earlier, I'm going to find a way to incorporate these abstract pieces in with my expressionism pieces. So I'm going to name these ones based on memories of hanging out with certain loved ones or friends. I already have a few ideas in my head on some captions, but I will leave that till the reveal of the paintings. But yeah, it'll be interesting to hang up these paintings at the art fair in a way that incorporates both styles, but they are both cohesive. Let me know in the comments if anyone else has these kind of subgenres of styles. And have you ever shown them together, or do you kind of leave them in separate collections? I think I ended up painting for an hour this day, and I find that is more effective for me, painting in small increments of time and then letting the painting rest and then coming in with fresh eyes more times than longer sessions. And here's me doing a close-up of what I have done so far with the painting. And again, it is all about layers. So even in this second layer, I'm already seeing translucency and laying over of different colors and mixing. So I'm trying to make it as interesting as possible. I think I did a little bit of painting without the camera on, so I did fill in most of the canvas, except for the little red on the bottom. I switched to the 24 by 24 canvas, and I'm just using the same paint that's on my palette and just kind of going in between the two canvases and using up whatever's on my palette. Again, at this stage, I'm not really thinking about what colors I'm using, even though I do like these colors. I'm just kind of putting them down intuitively, kind of sticking with the flow and not really overthinking the composition yet. So I'm recording the voiceover for this the next day, and it's a lovely sunny day here in Ontario, probably minus 20, I'm sure. And I'm really thinking if I should be doing prints or not. I have prints available on my Etsy shop, but I'm still indecisive if I just want to sell originals and do it off my main website, which I haven't published yet. So I have a main website, chrisnelsonstudio.com, but I don't have it published. And I know I've said in the past that it is good to have different price points, but if you're doing print on demand prints, is that the right thing for abstract art? I don't know. So let me know what you think, if prints are something you're interested in, or if you're more of an original person, and if you think it lowers the value of original work. Yeah, so this is what I'm thinking about in the morning, and I'm kind of like, oh, do I just go back to just selling originals because I think it does bring more value. And with my artwork, I don't know if it translates as well as like realism or other forms of art. So maybe this year I'll focus on getting my website set up, and I need some professional photos of myself in the studio. So I'm gonna see if I can hire a local photographer to just take some candid photos of me in the studio, maybe creating some work or sitting beside some of my finished work, and then work on my website. I do want to try Shopify because I think it does help with shipping in Canada. They give you a discount for shipping. And then figuring out where I can get boxes big enough and shipping materials big enough for some of my artwork, and start looking up how to make this more feasible to sell work online. Most of my original artwork has been sold in person locally, so I do want to expand that so it's easier for me to sell my originals all over Canada and the States and even overseas. That's the thing with starting an art business. There's never a dull moment. You're constantly trying to learn new techniques, have time to paint. You're possibly working a 9-to-5, and then you're learning marketing, you're learning about shipping, you're learning so much. And even though it's a lot of work, it's a lot of fun. When you are starting your own business, it is always fun to be your own boss and make the decisions for yourself. And again, I'm just using a China marker to scratch into some of the wet paint and make some mark making. I like doing this throughout the painting process because it just adds different textures and makes cool marks, and that can possibly show up in the final layer, and it just adds some depth into the layers. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of this video. I'm enjoying kind of these painting process videos where then I can talk over them and talk about the process and a little bit of what I'm doing to work towards my goal of becoming a full-time artist. But I would love to hear your opinion of what you're enjoying on the channel so far. I think this is probably like my 6th or 7th video I've posted, so every time I'm posting, I'm learning something different about what I'm enjoying and the process of making these videos. But I will leave now till the end of this. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe and like this video if you don't mind. And yeah, I'll be posting next week the second part of this video. I will be going in today to the studio to paint it, and we'll see where it ends up. But yeah, have a great weekend, and my next video will be posted next Saturday. So have a good weekend. Take care.